Everton FC are one of the most successful clubs of all time, yet they're never mentioned in any of the conversations. But why? This is team 6 of explaining the entire history of the Premier League. We're doing this with every single team, so if you want to see yours, make sure to subscribe. We have to go all the way back to 1879, where not Everton, but St Domingo Football Club was made for young men to stay fit during the winter months. As football grew, the name eventually changed to Everton FC and joined 11 other teams to form the first football league. They started strongly and consistently finished in the top half of the table across the 1890s. They won their first FA Cup in 1906 and the First Division twice. After World War I, just like all clubs, Everton were badly hit. Players and finances were hit and a rebuild was needed. They sort of hovered around mid-table across the early 20s before a certain player joined that would change Everton forever. In 1925, Dixie Dean joined Everton at just 18 years old. Now when I say the name Dixie Dean, the only thing you probably remember is the outrage that came after Sky Sports showed this graphic. So how good actually is he? Well, he scored 60 goals in the 27-28 season, helping Everton lift their third title. Despite a slump a couple seasons later, they bounced back as Dixie Dean helped Everton dominate the English League. Following his departure in 1937, Everton really struggled without him as their form took a hit before World War II broke out. Following World War II, Everton were badly hit. They couldn't maintain any sort of form, and after poor results, they were relegated in 1950. It wasn't going to be a quick fix this time, however. It was a long road back to the top that they had to endure. They managed to climb back up to the top division in 1954, but failed to be much of a threat. This remained consistent until 1961, where Everton would never be the same again. The Harry Cartwright era, aka Everton's golden era. Harry Cartwright was appointed as manager in 1961. He had a tactical mindset and was a master of squad rotation. That, mixed in with financial support of new chairman John Mears, Everton were ready to not just survive, but dominate English football. It was an instant success, winning the league in '63 and maintained consistent top finishes. He won the FA Cup in 1966 and to top it off, won the title again in 1970. With just under a decade, John Mears and Harry Cartwright turned Everton from a struggling side to one of the greatest clubs in Europe at the time. The league title was seen as one last triumph for Cartwright, as a mix of ageing players and player exits foreshadowed the decline for Everton. Cartwright stepped down in 1973 due to health issues, marking the end of their golden era. Across the 70s and early 80s, the club hired both Bill Bingham then Gordon Lee. Both did an okay job, however after a decline in results, the club sat below mid-table. That as well as not winning a trophy since 1970, the club grew frustrated over a lack of silverware. They needed a change, and that change came in 1981 when they hired Howard Kendall. The former Everton player brought a new approach to the club. It was a rough start as he struggled to show his vision. Fans began protesting against Kendall, and at one point he was nearly sacked. The board still had faith in him and kept him in the job, a decision that would go on to change Everton forever. This was the turning point. His plan was beginning to be seen as he brought home FA Cup glory in 1984. Their first trophy in 14 years. It was looking good. However, what was to happen next season would change everything. The 84-85 season goes down as one of the best seasons in the club's history. They began by winning the league title for the 8th time. They followed up by winning the European Cup Winners' Cup the next week. They managed to reach the FA Cup final and face Manchester United. One game that decided whether Everton would be crowned as treble winners and be part of a historic group of just a few football clubs. And well, they lost. Yeah, they lost. Despite this loss, it was still an incredible season for them. The next season saw Everton come close to a double. However, a loss to rivals Liverpool on both the league title and the FA Cup denied them from that opportunity. It was still looking good. However, something was to happen in 1985 that would change Everton forever. The Hazel disaster. In 1985, Liverpool played Juventus in the European Cup final, a match which saw 39 fans lose their lives due to crowd violence. UEFA resultantly put a 5-year ban on all English clubs for participating in Europe. This affected Everton the most as their squad was at their peak. They could have easily dominated Europe, yet they were denied of doing so. This didn't affect them in England as they still won another league title in 1987. This was seen as the last hurrah for Kendall as he would go on to leave Bilbao that summer, marking the end of their golden era. The following years consisted of trying to find a good replacement, which proved unsuccessful. Kendall even came back in 1990, but it wasn't the same, and he resigned 3 years later as the club struggled to survive in the top division. The 90s consisted of trying to survive in the new Premier League, with a random spike in the middle which saw them win the FA Cup in 1995. By the late 90s, the club was holding on by a thread. They survived on goal difference a couple of times and needed someone to turn this round. They called upon David Moyes in 2002, who was an instant hit, finishing 7th in their first season, mainly thanks to their new star boy Wayne Rooney. Moyes managed to carry Everton to the 4th place and earned Champions League qualification for the first time ever. Despite them not making much of an impact in Europe, Moyes managed consistent finishes ranging between 5th and 8th over the next 6 years. He made the most of star players like Tim Cahill, Michael Arteta, Seamus Coleman, and more to deliver results under a tight budget. The Moyes era came to an end in 2013 as he would earn a move to Man United, starting a decade's worth of complete confusion. Across the next decade, they went through 7 different managers, each one following a similar story. They would join, do well in their first season, start the next season poorly, and were sacked. It got to the point where under Sean Dyche, Everton sat at 19th, deep into the relegation, and were no longer competing at the top. They decided to sack Dyche and bring in David Moyes, who returned with the right vision for Everton. He turned their season round, nearly going his first 9 games unbeaten and guiding Everton to 13th place. So with the prospect of Moyes and new players coming in, where will Everton finish this season? While you think about that, why not watch this video right here?